Cerebral palsy is also known as spastic diplegia, and it can affect people in many ways. The way it affects me is that I have reduced mobility in my hips, legs, arms and feet.
When I was doing it, basically it was classifications 1 to 4. You wouldn't be playing football because you'd be in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So you would play wheelchair football. 5 to 8, you're ambulant.
Yeah.
So 5 being having the most impairment, so you'd be probably affected in both your arms and both your legs. Very often 5s will be goalkeepers because they're decent with their hands.
Yeah.
8 would be the least affected. 7s are the most common, so they're hemiplegics, the people affected back down by one side.
Yeah.
So very dominant right-footed and very dominant left-footed. And then we evolved as part of our brief to develop football across and make football for all. That was our strap line in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And obviously disability was a big area for us.
Playing for CP Northwest gave me a bit of a reality check because I'd obviously played football with my friends and I'd never played disability football, and I always just thought, I'm going to walk into this, I'm going to be the best player, it's going to be just a bit of fun for me. And within about 5 minutes of the first training session, when I wasn't even training because I just had an operation on my foot, I was just going down to watch. I soon realised how affected I actually was by cerebral palsy. It then introduced me to people like me with my disability, and as I say, it just showed me the wide range of how it affects people.
You do have to do training specific, so I have to tailor my sessions, I have to differentiate my sessions based on the player's abilities, based on the severity of cerebral palsy that they've got. So there's a lot of detail that goes into it in the sense of what we want to get out of it to suit the players.
When I was about 8 or 9, the school let me play for their team. I started training with my local team, Crossfields, and then moved over to Eagle. I was allowed to play with them up until I had my operations when I was 10. And then after that, they said health and safety got involved, and point blank, I was not allowed to play football for any team anymore.
The awareness, definitely an issue. Definitely an issue. You know, I knew nothing about CP football when I first got involved.
Yeah.
And I was working for the FA. We worked really hard to get that into the public domain so that the education sector are aware of it. There's a little bit of a misnomer here that actually we'd have to go to special schools.
Yeah.
Most people who could play CP football for England will not go into a special school.
No.
They'll be in mainstream education. So it's that, the big thing for me, the people who need to know most about it is your PE teacher.
Obviously socially, sometimes it does play in the back of your mind, like, when I'm meeting new people, how do I tell them that I've got cerebral palsy? How do I mention it without making it into a massive thing, because it is such a broad spectrum.
So, in just day-to-day life, what's your biggest struggle when you're dealing with your CP?
Pain. Constant pain in my foot. It never seems to go away, no matter what I do. How I walk, what shoes I buy, what tablets I take. Even after I had an operation to correct it, it's not as bad as it was, but I still have days where I physically can't get out of bed because of the pain in my foot and put any weight on it.
Football is a small part of why this group of players comes together. The reality is football is the pathway, but friendships that will last a lifetime, memories that will last a lifetime. Community aspect is essential because from a well-being point of view, for a cerebral palsy player, it gives them that sense of well-being, it gives them that sense of achievement, it gives them a purpose and a goal. A lot of my players all have different careers, but this is the one common theme that they like, that they love football, and they want to compete.
The competitive aspect is definitely my favourite because that's something I've kind of craved from a very young age, and I never thought I'd get it. To then be told, coming out of lockdown, listen, we've got a cerebral palsy team, we want you to come down and play. I was over the moon, and don't get me wrong, it has been a challenge adjusting to it and taking everything in, and kind of, as I say, accepting how much it affects me. But I just absolutely love everything about it. Seeing the boys, going to training, playing the games, even when we lose, we all leave with a smile on our faces because we know that we've defied the odds to get there.
The big change in the last 3 years is that Baroness Sue Campbell, who is was sort of the most senior person at the FA, influencing and getting more and more resource into women's football. She was very much the face of women's football. She, in the last 3 years, her brief is disability football. So they're getting, she is great at influencing getting resource for disability football.
It was kind of, at the start, coming to terms with how affected I was. It was like a real shock to the system, because I then realised, oh, hang on a minute, this has affected me a lot more than I thought it did. So I had to take a few weeks to come to terms with it. And then obviously just getting involved and kind of having the mindset to keep going and not just give it up because of how poorly I was performing in training or how hard it was to get used to. Even little things like putting football boots on and having to adapt what boot I wear because of the pain in your feet. It's loads of little things that you wouldn't even think about, and it just all kind of comes together in one.
I use coaching tools, so I use whiteboards, I use a lot of visuals. I even use my iPhone to show notes, where you're putting yourself in those players' shoes, and I think your communication is really important as well. I think it's made me a better communicator, in the sense of, not only have I got players with cerebral palsy, but I've also got 2 players who are partially deaf. So there's things along the way that I've learned about myself, and that I've been able to practice, with the players.
The CP is part of that and remains part of that, and he's one of the most successful areas of disability football for the FA. So it's on an upward trajectory. That 20 years is 2001 or 22 years really has seen us develop, get stronger in terms of infrastructure, talent ID, better performances on the pitch, more resource. All those things have happened. A lot of the other countries would probably mimic what we do.
Yeah.
We're still not there in terms of, I don't think we're a top 4 country yet, but we're in that group just below, which we've definitely improved.
So then, how would you describe CP football to somebody who has never heard of it?
Hilarious. It's hilarious to watch, but it will take your breath away because some of the lads that play, you wouldn't even think there's anything wrong with them.
Just because they have a disability doesn't mean they can't compete.